Hi, welcome back to Sherry's Crocheted Happiness. I'm super excited about how many new subscribers I've gotten in the last week or so since I posted my last video on what I learned making my temperature blanket over the last year. And so I was talking with my son and I was saying, gosh, I don't know what else I can post. I don't want to really make another blanket, although I could. I could do a different style. And he said, Mom, why don't you just make what you already make and show them how you do it? And so I was thinking that, well, that's a good idea, and that I will post a video on my headband that I like to make. And I've sold tons of these at craft fairs this year and over the last few years. So up here in the Pacific Northwest in Washington, we like to support our Seattle Seahawks. And I know that they are no longer in the playoffs this year, but we still support them and we still are 12th man up here. So obviously you don't have to make a 12th man headband if that's not the team that you support or the colors that you like, but this is the style of headband that I like to make. And so I'm going to show you how to make one of these today. You can make them in all sorts of colors. You can make them obviously to match your favorite football team. You can do them in solid colors. You can do them with solid colors and an offset, a different color button, or different colored flower. This flower's got some bling on there. That bling is those little rhinestones that you can get in a package, and then I've just used some tacky glue to glue them on there. So far I've had pretty good luck with that. My headbands, my flowers are all buttoned on, and I always tell my customers to take the flower off if you need to wash the headband, and then you can see that the little button just stays right on the headband. You can throw this in the wash, and then once it comes out you can put your little flower back on. You can also take that flower off if you're just not feeling the flower today, or if you don't want to wear it on your headband. My headbands are also have a little bit of adjustability with the button closure in the back. I put 2 buttons on there so that you can make it a little bigger or a little smaller to fit just about any head. And I do size them in like infants, and I put the buttons on the back, and then child, and then so pretty much child would be, you know, little to probably about 10 or 12 depending on how big your child is, and then my adult one would fit a teenager to an adult, obviously. And then just leaving them buttoned, and then just pulling it over your head. And you could even it works well with long hair, short hair. You can pull it all the way down and put your hair over the top, and then slide it up this way as well. And it's just nice because it covers your ears, it keeps your neck a little bit warm. And I've had people ask me, because it's a double crochet, I wear these all the time at my son's baseball game, and anytime I'm outside, and the wind is kept out of my ears just fine. So you can also make them with any kind of button you want as well. You can do football, baseball. This one is for the Kennewick Lions baseball. So go Lions. You guys are going to do awesome this year, and I see a state championship in your future. Well, keep up the good work, guys. So those are some examples of the colors. I used to make these without the flower and give people an option to have either a flower or no flower, and I found that I went back and added flowers to all the ones that didn't have them because I was selling them all with flowers. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do this. This is just a pattern that I made up. It's not I did look up and get some ideas on some headbands to kind of see what the basic sizing was on them, just to get a basic idea on how to make a headband. But I have been using this very simple pattern for quite a few years now. And once you find one that you like, just stick with it. I mean, try new things, obviously, but find one that you really like and stick with it. And once you get it down pat, I think I can bust one of these out in about an hour. I've made quite a few of them during some staff meetings at work or some committee meetings for baseball or whatever. I don't go anywhere without my yarn, so I get them done wherever I am. All right, so I've gone ahead and I've chained 66 chains, And this is my adult size headband. So once you get your chain, let me put this down just a hair so you can see this a little better. I'm going to single crochet into 1 over from the end of my chain, and I'm going to chain or single crochet 10. Katara, no. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a single crochet, if you remember, is going through the loop, and I am using both sides of my chain. So I have like a top stitch and a bottom stitch on my chain there, and right now I'm just working in the top stitch because I'm going to go all the way down and back around. This is kind of crocheted. It's not in a round, but it does go on one side and then down the other side. It'll become evident when I get down to the other side that what I'm explaining to you here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now I'm going to double crochet all the way to the end. And a double crochet is yarn over, go through, yarn over, and I have 3 on there. Yarn over through the first 2, yarn over through the last one. And I will continue that all the way down. Okay. So we'll just keep cruising along here. And to touch back on my temperature blanket, I hope that some of you who have expressed an interest in starting one, or you made one, I hope that you guys will continue on with it for this year. Because it really, I mean, it is a huge commitment, it really is, because you think about you're crocheting a row for each day of the year, and you've got to keep up on the temperature. But in the end, when you get to the end of the year and you look back at your temperature blanket and you can see all of the different colors for the year, and the fact that you finished it and completed it is going to be pretty amazing. And what a great blanket and conversation piece you'll be able to have, you know, either if you give it to someone or if you have it on your couch or whatever, your bed, because you'll be able to look at that and say, hey, this was the day that it was 100 degrees, or this was the day it was 70, or look at how many days we had of this temperature, or whatever. So keep up the good work on those and don't give up. It's amazing how technology is these days that you don't even actually have to look at the temperature every day. You can go back in and collect it for the week if you wanted to, off of if you use the same source every time to look at the temperature. You can go back the entire year. And I've heard, I think I mentioned this before, I've heard some people or read some people were even doing it for like the year they were born, or someone that they knew was born. So what a great sentimental piece that would be. All right, so I am getting pretty close to being down here to the end, where I am going to do my single crochets again. All right, let me see where we're at. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 2 more double crochets. Okay, and then I'm going to single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so at this point, I am just going to turn my whole project upside down. So this is the way I was crocheting down the row, and I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to crochet in the other side right there of the side I was just on. So I'm going to do, and that's my tail. I'm going to tuck my tail down so it will get just woven in. So I'm just going to do another single crochet. So there's my 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you can see that my tail is tucked under. I try to crochet over those as much as I can as I am working, because I really hate having to tuck ends in at the end. All right, so that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I think that I forgot to tell you that I am using a size G hook. If my gauge, it may be different than yours. If you need to go up a hook or down a hook, give it a try and see which size works better for you. But the G seems to work the best for me for this one. And this is just a little foam pad pencil holder. I think it actually is a crochet thing that anyways goes on there just so my hand doesn't fatigue as much when I'm crocheting. All right, so we got our 10, and now I'm going to go back to the double crochet, and I'm going to double crochet back down to the end of the headband, back down to where I started my single crochets. Okay, and this particular blue is called Midnight Blue. I usually use like a navy blue or midnight blue for this particular headband. You can use whatever color suits you. And then I have just the white, and then I use spring green for my green, or like I said, any color that you like to use for whatever team you're supporting, or if you're just wanting to make a solid colored headband. But this will be a good one to watch, because I'm going to be changing the color 3 times, and that'll give you an idea of how to do that too. Okay, so again, I'm just crocheting down the other side. So this loop right here is my chain. It's the other side of my chain. So that's the stitch that I'm going into. So I'm working down both sides of the chain, on one side and then on the other side. Okay. It'd be a good day to wear a headband today, because it has been raining here all day long. I think it's supposed to clear up pretty soon, but we're headed out of town to go on a ski retreat with youth group this weekend, so I'm going to be taking a warm headband or warm beanie with me up to the mountains. I'm not skiing this year. I get to be the lodge mom, which I am okay with, because that means I get to stay in where it's warm, and I get to play board games with the kids, and I will make sure and take my crocheting just in case I have some time up there, because we do have a little bit of downtime. So I never leave home, or hardly leave home, without crochet. I crochet anywhere. The only place I have not crocheted, quite honestly, is in church, and that's only during the church service. But I almost feel like I could, because that would help me to concentrate, because I'm focused on this and I can listen and hear and focus on what the pastor's saying. But anyways, I crochet everywhere. So I finished up the last double crochet, and I'm back down here where these single crochets are. So again, there's 10 of those, so we'll do 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10. All right, so if you were going to continue with blue, then I would, actually, if you're either with continuing with the blue or finishing off your blue, you're going to slip stitch to the first stitch. And slip stitch is just putting your hook through, pulling up yarn, and pulling it through. Okay, let me show you that again. So this is my working loop. I'm going to put it through the very first stitch I did on that side, the single crochet, yarn over, and pull it through my working stitch. So now this is my working stitch. So if I was going to continue on with the blue, I would single crochet or chain up one, excuse me, and then I would single crochet my 10, double crochet down to the end again, single, single all the way around. And I would add, actually, let me back up for a second here. I do 2 stitches, and then I double, so I end up with 11 single crochets before I hit my double crochets. And then the same thing down here. I'm going to add 1 double down here before I go around the corner, and then I'm going to stitch. So I end up with 11 stitches down here. And that is to just widen the curve a little bit. It's to widen this ever so slightly so it doesn't want to curl as much back here. It makes it just a little wider so it lays a little flatter. And you can see my double crochets right here and right here. Not double crochets, where I have increased it, excuse me, to make it a little bigger. And then again, right here is an increase, and right there is an increase. Okay, so I only increase once, and it's only in my single crochets, not on my doubles. Okay, but this particular headband, to go back, I am not going to continue in the blue, so I'm going to pull out those few stitches that I just made. I am going to leave where I slip stitched that, and I'm just going to snip off my yarn. Okay, so now I'm all done with this blue for now. And I am going to pull this through, and that just kind of tightens off that area there. Okay, so we're done with the blue color now for right now. And next is my white. So I'm going to make my little slip stitch here to catch my yarn. And I'm going to start, so there is a front. Let's see, this is the front, and this is the back. So I'm always going to start with the front facing me, so that the importance of that is that you want the stitch you want to be on the same side each time. So just kind of like if you were sewing, you wouldn't want a front side and a back side. You want all the front sides to be on one side and all the back sides to be on the other. It's the same thing with the crochet. You want it with this particular pattern. I want everything to be on the outside, which is going to be my front, and I want the inside to be where it's going to be laying against my head. Okay, so the front is facing me, and I'm going to just do a little slip stitch here so I can start. And I will chain up, and then I have my 2 tails for my blue and my white, and I'm going to hold those down, and I'm going to make my first single crochet through the first, see that? I've got my slip stitch right here and my chain, and then this is my first crochet. And then I'm going to do 2 single crochets in this space. So there's 1, there's 2. That's my increase to make that a little bigger as I go around this corner. All right, so I've got, counting this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now, let me get that out of the way. So now you can see that my next stitch is going to be a double. You can see this is my single crochet here, and that's the double crochet. So if you ever lose count when you're doing this, the pattern, once you get it down, once you get your base rows down, your pattern will tell you when you need to go to your next double crochet, when you need to start. So this is going to be my first double crochet, and I will continue the double crochet down until I get to the end where I go back down to single crochets. See that? Okay. Sometimes if I don't want my headband to be too wide, if I have an order for someone who asks that they don't want it as wide as I make it, this is the row that I would do as a half double crochet. And that just takes off just a little bit and makes it just a little less wide, and makes it more manageable for people with smaller heads that don't want it quite as wide. Okay, so I'm going to finish crocheting down here. Okay, so I'm going to finish this row and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm down to that last double crochet before I go back down to my singles. So I've crocheted all the way down. And so here's the last one here. And then again, it's very evident that I've got doubles and singles. You can see the difference in the size. So now I know that this is where I'm going to start my first single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the same stitch, 10. Okay, and then I'm going to go around the end. Okay, so now I'm on the other side, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think I miscounted down here, but the important part about this is that you want to start off with 10, but as you're going around this corner, the actual amount that you go around, I mean, you don't want to increase it all the way around unless you wanted it to have a big fat tail or big fat round area there, but it's not as crucial as on some other patterns, because you're just trying to get around the corner to go back up the other side, and as long as your single crochets are all in the same space and your double crochets are all in the same space here, that's the most important part of this pattern. Okay, so if I end up with 13 stitches on one side and 12 on the other, it's really not going to make that much of a difference, as long as it's keeping its still rounded shape there. Do you see that? Okay. So now I'm gonna, I've gotten down to where I'm back up to double crochets. Okay. So now I'm gonna double crochet all the way back down to the other end and get down to my singles again. One more thing I just want to touch on this part here. You're just going to make sure that you do a single crochet. You're going to increase at least once on each side, but then do a single crochet all the way around so that every stitch from the other row gets a single crochet in it. I don't want everyone to get hung up on the fact that I said you needed 11 stitches if you end up having 12 or 13 on each side or as you're coming around the corner, because the most important part is that every stitch gets a stitch in it so that there's no open spaces. The space that you can see through in there, that's where your buttons are going to go, and that's the center space where we were working on either side of that chain, and that gives it a little bit of play for the buttons to when you're closing the buttons, you know, kind of like a buttonhole. So, all right, so let me go ahead and continue to crochet down this with my double crochets, and then we'll get on to the next color, okay? All right, so now we're all done with the white all the way around. There we go. So now I'm going to start with my spring green, and I'm just going to make my little slip stitch here. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to start at the top of my headband. Oop, I lost my little stitch there. Okay, so remember I slip stitch in. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Trying to hold this so you can try and see what I'm doing, and it doesn't want to quite work there. All right, slip stitched in, chain up, and now I'm going to single crochet around. I'm going to go ahead and increase right here. Increase is doing 2 stitches in 1 hole. Okay, continue. All right, so that's my single crochets. There's my little tail sticking out there. Let's see if I can get him tucked in a little better. You can tuck in your tails whenever you want. I know some people go in and tuck them in after they're done with their project. I like to work on mine and try to get them tucked away while I'm working. All right, so you can see, remember I was talking about how evident it is that there is a difference in size of stitch. This is going to be the part that's going to have the buttons in it, and then this is the headband part, and it's obviously wider than my button part. Okay, so that's where I know that I'm going to start doing more double crochets. All right, so then I double crochet down all the way around again, not all the way around, I double crochet down to the end where I do my singles all the way around the single part where the buttons go, and then double crochet back down the other side until I get to where the last part of my buttons are. Hopefully that's not too confusing in my description there. You just follow what you've already done. That's why I said it's a pretty simple pattern. Pretty repetitive. Fits, you know, you can use it to fit, to make them to fit for little kids. So 66 was the adult size, and then I would go down to about 10, take 10 off, 10 stitches off to do a kid, and about, I go to, so what, 56, and then I go to 50, 45 or 50 for babies or little, you know, 0 to a year old. But the good part about this is if you need it to be bigger or you need it to be smaller, you can, you know, measure someone's head and you can make the adjustments accordingly in your chain as to how big or small you want to make this. Pretty easy pattern here. And you can do it in any stitch that you want. I've made some where I do a front double post or a back double post down the center of it just to give it some texture. But this one is just so easy and so quick that it's usually my go-to pattern. I mean, not usually, it is my go-to pattern when I need to make a headband. I like learning new stitches and doing new projects, but I also like keeping it simple. All right, that's my double crochets down. Now I'm going to single crochet again. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That was my increase. And then I'm just going to go around the corner here. And this is going to be my increase right here. Increase. And then single back over here. And then I'm going to start my double crochets again. And I'll double crochet this middle section here. Continue all the way down here. All right, so I'm going to continue this down to where I do my singles, and then I will catch up with you when I get ready to put on my edging. All right, so now that's the green all the way around. Okay, you can see this is where the headband, the back of it. Okay, so now I'm going to put a border on the outside of this. You don't have to put a border if that's as big as or as wide as you would like it to be. I like it to have a little border, not a binder, a border on there, just because I feel like it finishes it off, makes it a complete. I do it on all of them. That one just has a black border on there. I could have done orange, I suppose, but I felt like that was enough. Same, yellow border, not binder, border. And then red. And I have all kinds of them. I even have this really interesting yarn. I'm not sure if any of you have ever tried this yarn out, but this, I don't know if the video is showing it, but this is reflective. So when the light hits it, it was quite interesting to work with, because it was kind of making my eyes feel a little buggy because the light hits that just right and it makes it reflective. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be doing it in here. Maybe there's not enough contrast in light or something, but anyways, this one, like if a car light hits you when you're running it or walking your dog or whatever, it'll reflect off of this. So not the softest yarn, but definitely something to wear in the dark when it gets so dark. Here up in the Pacific Northwest, it's dark in the wintertime by like 4, and maybe it is in other places too. I just don't remember when we lived in California. I don't remember it getting dark that early in the day, but maybe I just didn't pay attention. So walking your dog or going out in the evening time, you need to have reflective gear on. So all right, for my border, I'm going to start at the top again, and with my slip stitch, chain, okay, and then I'm just going to single crochet all the way around the entire headband, and I am going to increase one time on each side still. But single crochet all the way around. So all right, so let me finish working on this to get this stitch around, and I'll be right back. All right, so there is the completed headband with my single crochet border all the way around. All right, and then in one of my prior videos I showed you how to make this flower that I use. Pretty simple pattern, so go check that out as well. And so the next thing we're going to do is I just have some basic little buttons that I'm going to sew onto the back of the headband. I usually, for size-wise, I usually try to go into this middle section where I did the original chain to start where my buttons go. That is the best place I found for placement of these buttons. And it's really just simple sewing on a button. Make sure that you get through the yarn though on both sides of a stitch. So I have been in a hurry before and I haven't really gotten it in there and the button has come off, and you know, you really don't want to sell something or give something to somebody or be using something when the button falls off. So be mindful when you're placing your yarn for your buttons. And then tucking your strings in. I just take my crochet hook and I go under some of the stitches and just kind of tuck that away and hide it. Just like if you were tucking your tails in for, you know, when you are doing any other project, just to make it nice. And if you have any excess there, just snip that off. All right, so there's one button. And then my second button, I just place on there, still in the single crochet area, still in the center where my chain was, a little further down. And again, making sure that I go through on either side of my original chain so that it's not going to come out. And I just tie a double knot and then tuck those strings away. Okay, so that's what it looks like with the before I tuck them away. And now I can just button it in place through that center chain part. And same thing with the bottom part, bottom button. Simple, simple. And there it is. Super cute without the flower, but even cuter with the flower. And that's probably why I sell more with a flower than without. Okay, so now to put your flower on, I fold my headband in half and center it the best that I can. And this is why you do the increase around the edge, in case you're wondering, or increase in this area. So that it doesn't, if you didn't do an increase, then it would really want to pucker in that area, and we don't want it to pucker. We want it to lay as flat as it can. All right, so my headband is folded in half, and I'm going to place the button. I don't have a football button right now, but I have a green button that matches. And you could put whatever color, as fancy or as simple as you want. I do have some pretty fancy buttons over here, and just keep in mind that sometimes this one's not too heavy, but if you use one that's super heavy, it's going to make the headband want to sag down. So maybe only use the button without a flower, because that would be super cute too, to just have the flower on there without the button without the flower. Okay, back to putting this button on here. Okay, so again, just as easy as sewing a button on button on, and just making sure that you get your yarn on both sides of the yarn so that it doesn't come off. I just pulled my yarn all the way through. Okay, so there it is. I'm going to pull this tight and tie this off. And then again, I'm going to tuck in those strings. But for now, I'm going to take my flower. And when you are making your flower, if you have a big button that you want to put on there, just make sure that you make your hole big enough to accommodate that flower. The button rather, good grief. Not the, so that your flower will be able to button on. Okay, so there's that. So I hope that this was helpful for you to make a headband, and that it was thorough enough in the instructions that you can make one without a written pattern. I don't have a written pattern for this, but pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I hope that you'll make one and that you'll post a picture of it, or let me know somehow that you've made one. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Don't forget to subscribe to my page. Check out Sherry's Crochet on Facebook, because I'm always posting new things on there as well. So thanks for checking it out, and we'll see you next time. Happy crocheting!